This is a lecture from Open Tuition. To benefit from the lecture, you should download the free lecture notes from opentuition.com.
Hello and welcome to CIMA's F2 Advanced Financial Reporting provided to you by Open Tuition. First of all, let me thank you for choosing Open Tuition. I hope you've enjoyed any courses that you've previously studied with us, and I hope you will go through there and enjoy the course that you're about to go through and study with myself, Chris Barlam. Okay, this is just a brief introduction in terms of how everything works and how the syllabus all fits together. So let's go through there first of all and talk about the syllabus. Because remember, the way in which these computer-based assessments are now examined is that every learning objective within the syllabus will be examined. Okay, so you cannot neglect any part of the syllabus. So what you've got, first bit of the syllabus is all about sources of long-term finance. So in F1, we went through there and spoke about short-term finance in terms of, are we going to use trade payables to help finance our working capital, or use trade payables to help fund a short-term deficit within our cash flow forecast? Or are we going to go through there and use an overdraft, or was it there that we could have used, was it a short-term bank loan or debt factoring? Now we come to look at the longer-term form of finance, which essentially revolves around debt and equity. So similar to what you saw in F1, where you need to discuss the pros and cons of whether or not one form of finance is more beneficial than the other form of finance. Here as well, we're going to have to do some computations. And the computations is all about calculating a discount rate to use in project appraisal. And that discount rate that we use is referred to as your weighted average cost of capital. Okay, so there's a good mixture there of computational and non-computational aspects in that part of the syllabus. That is worth 15%. So I'm sure you're aware that there are 60 questions within your exam, and 15% of 60, I think, works out as 9 questions. So it isn't a huge amount of the syllabus, but will take a little bit of work, particularly on the computational aspects. And again, all learning objectives are assessed, so you cannot ignore it. Okay, so do spend a little bit of time making sure that you understand the fundamentals, the concepts, to be able to do the calculations. We also then begin to look at financial reporting. Again, very similar to what we've seen in F1. The financial reporting aspect in F1 was split into accounting standards and group accounts, wasn't it? Here, what we do is we look at some more advanced accounting standards. We also look at some accounting standards that are a little bit easier, and I personally think should be in F1, but there we go. And we also go through and advance things on with regards to groups. So we looked at the basics and the essentials of groups in F1. Now we go through there and begin to look at some complexities, such as changes in group structure, an overseas subsidiary, and if we have a complex group structure. Again, the key bit there is that you understand the fundamentals from F1. So if you were strong at that, that will really help you at F2 level. If you weren't so strong, what I would recommend is just to drop back into the F1 videos and have a quick practice of some of the questions in F1 before you then start thinking about anything F2 related. Good thing though, however, is that's a big part of the syllabus, very computational, and it's 60%. 60% of 60 is there, is it's 36 questions. That's a massive part of the syllabus, but don't just go through and focus upon that. You need to make sure that you cover all aspects of the syllabus. Then what we've got is the analysis of financial performance and position. So possibly the most challenging aspect, I think, of the syllabus, particularly the non-computational aspect. The computational aspect is pretty straightforward. You just need to go through there and calculate some ratios, many of which you've seen before. So a lot of those working capital and liquidity ratios, a lot of those profitability ratios that you've touched upon in earlier subjects will be recalculated again. Hurrah! Fantastic, some nice easy marks. The difficulty that you have here is trying to interpret and analyze the movement in a ratio and or a balance. And you get those select all style questions, which can be quite a challenge. So it does take a little bit of time to grasp how to approach this type of question and to be able to build up a basic knowledge of why ratios may move or may not have moved in a particular fashion. So do focus a lot of your attention on the non-computational aspects here. Based upon that, that's the remaining questions, is that there as 25%. That's a quarter of your exam, which is 15 questions. So there's quite a lot of questions on that difficult aspect. Again, there's no rules as to how that 15%, sorry, those 15 questions will be split, but I do think they will be split much more weighted towards the non-computational aspects. So do just be aware of the challenges that you will expect to come across on the analysis of performance and position. Okay, so that's the syllabus. Let's just have a look at the exam. I think you know about the exam already, but let's just recap. Computer-based. If you didn't know it was computer-based, what have you been doing? You've also got objective test questions, so that's not just multiple choice, is it? That's a lot more to think about. It's 90 minutes. You are under a little bit of time pressure, but it's the same for everybody. And the pass mark is there, isn't it? It's 70%. So we said before that the exam covers all the learning objectives of the syllabus. So you really do need to understand the syllabus well to ensure that you get that 70% pass mark. If you've done previous exams, which I'm sure many of you will have had, then you know the challenges that are faced with these objective test computer-based assessments. The exam questions, as we've said, they are objective test questions. The first style of objective test question that you could get is multiple choice. So that's just guessing any one from four, isn't it? So I've got a little example here. I think it's actually an example from an F2 question. You are asked to go through there and classify which is an associate of P according to IS 28. And you need to choose one of those four items. Okay. If you choose the wrong one, you don't get any marks. So following on from multiple choice, you've also got multiple response. So that makes you think a little bit more. That's getting you more into the select all. Again, I think this is an F2 question as well. But here it makes it a bit more straightforward in fact it says you need to choose two of the following conditions which are correct. If you choose two that are correct, you get all the marks. If you choose one that's correct, you get no marks. If you choose three, of which two are correct, you still get no marks. So you only tick two correct answers. If it is a select all style question, you may select 1, 2, 3, 4, or potentially the 5 answers that are available, 6 if there were to be 6. And the multiple response tend to be that little bit more of a challenge in my personal opinion. Other type of question that you've got is going through there looking at your drag and drop. So you use the mouse to click on an answer and drop it into the correct box. You have an example here. I think it's to do with investment property. So that might refresh a little bit of your knowledge from the days of F1. But here, the one thing I'd like to draw your attention to is that there is a 0 over on that far left-hand side, isn't there? And if you think that there should be nothing within the box, don't leave it blank. You physically have to drag and drop the 0 into the correct space. So even though you will have had the other number right, you get the question wrong because you've not drag and dropped the 0 to show that there is 0 within that box. Okay, so do just be very, very, very careful there. Other one that you've got in terms of exam question is looking at your gap fill. So that's your data entry, okay? Entering a number into the box. Very much like what you saw in your certificate level. If you have a number that's in thousands, don't put in the comma. Whatever number you put in, don't put in the commas. Again, questions will be specific about your rounding. Again, I think you can see there, can't you, that it says give your answer to the nearest whole number, okay? If it wants it as decimals, then it will tell you to 2 decimal places or something similar. Other one that you've got is your hotspots. I just don't think that there's much option to use hotspot within the F2 exam. Hotspot is where you get your mouse and you click on the area, maybe of a graph or a chart that addresses the answer to the question. Given the way that F2 is set up, I just don't see there being that many graphs, that many charts, where you would need to hover your mouse over the correct area and click on that hotspot. Okay, but there we go. Last one that you've got there is your drop down list. Again, I think I've chosen an example from F1. You can see there it's all about tax. There's no tax in F2, but all about there your tax depreciation. And have we got the drop down for a balancing charge or a balancing allowance? Okay. You also need to put the correct number in terms of the gap fill. Remember, don't put in any commas. But this bit here, we're just identifying the fact that you need to drop down the menu and pick the correct one. Okay, so again, another style of question that the exam team have available to them. All sounds a bit scary, doesn't it? The fact that it's a 70% pass mark, you've only got 90 minutes, there's 60 questions. Don't panic. It will be a fair assessment. Okay. If you have done the work, put in the practice, you'll be more than capable of getting that pass mark. So, how are you going to ensure that you get the pass? What are the keys to success in passing F2? Goes without saying. Every learning objective within the syllabus will be tested. So study the entire syllabus. Don't leave any bits and pieces out just because you think it's hard or you don't like it. You have to persevere with it. So go through the entire syllabus. Actually look at the learning objectives. See what they are asking you to answer. Because I think if you understand the learning objectives, you understand a little bit more about how you will be examined come the exam. Understand the basics well. There will be some bits that are very technical and very complex, but if you understand the basics, the fundamentals of how it works, you can apply that fundamental basic knowledge to even the most complex scenarios and you will generate the right answer. So it's all about the fundamentals, the basics, the concepts and the rules. If you know them, you will then be able to apply them as you practice the questions. Yep, vitally important. Question practice. You will have bought a revision kit from whichever tuition provider you have chosen. Make sure that you practice the questions in that revision kit, not just once, but twice. And when you get to practice them more and more, then begin to do them under time conditions, because that will get you ready for the real exam itself. If you get really stuck, we're here to help. You may be watching me now on the video. I'm a long way away from where you may be, but we are there to help. We're on the other end of the forum. The Ask the Tutor forum. Go through, click on the CIMA F2 Ask the Tutor forum. Ask away any technical questions that you may have, and I will do my best to address them as soon as is possible. Okay. If I'm away for a few days, I'll go through there and answer them when I get back. Okay. Last bit to say. Good luck. Work hard and enjoy the course. Try and get the most out of it as is physically possible. Don't just think about it as trying to pass an exam. I know that's what you need to do, but try and learn from it and improve your knowledge so you can take that knowledge out into the real world as you become a true management accountant. See you on the next video.